Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, whatever time it is. Very happy to have you here. Thanks very much. This is Legal Talk. I am your host, John Mitchell. And today, the great American poet said, "You can't always get what you want, but sometimes if you try, you get what you need." And boy, oh boy, buckle your seatbelts, strap yourselves in, because today I absolutely have what you need. We are very pleased, overjoyed to have with us immigration attorney extraordinaire, one of the best, top of her field, Ingrid Perez. Ingrid, welcome to Legal Talk, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me, John.
Yes, ma'am. Hey, well, jumping right in, Ingrid. I think that we have some questions from people out there. Inquiring minds want to know. So, what can you tell us about visas, work visas coming to the United States? Kind of, first of all, kind of run down for us. What are the categories of visa that we're going to talk about today? You said EB-1, EB-2.
So we're going to talk about focusing on small business owners and how they can benefit from our immigration laws, specifically focusing on H-1B, potentially the EB-2 or EB-3 visa, and how small businesses can navigate those visa options.
Oh my goodness! Well, that sounds very exciting. So the H-1B visa. Tell us a little bit about what that is and how might small business owners qualify, or how might they take advantage of that?
Sure. So the H-1B is a very common non-immigrant visa that allows U.S. employers to hire foreign workers for specialty occupations. So eligibility is limited to people who have specialized knowledge or bachelor's degree or higher. Typical jobs in for this H-1B visa are things like engineers, mathematicians, things like that require specialized knowledge. And for small businesses, the first thing that they have to consider is the ability to pay the wage for the employee that they're looking to hire. So it's really important to talk to an immigration attorney to make sure that the small business has that ability to pay and the evidence they need to prove it.
All right, so evidence to prove that you have the ability to pay, because correct me if I'm wrong. So if an employer wants to sponsor somebody through this type of visa, H-1B visa, so you need to prove that you have the wherewithal to pay the wage, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you cannot offer lower wages than the prevailing wage for that job type in the United States. Is that correct?
That's right, because the law requires that you pay a fair wage, and part of that process is getting a labor certification through the Department of Labor to make sure that the wage that's being offered is normal within the industry. So that is actually one of the first things that the employer has to do during this H-1B process.
Okay, great. So, all right. So, the labor certification, and what kind of evidence or what kind of justification, how would they go about showing or proving that they have the wherewithal? What would that be required to show that they have the wherewithal to pay these prevailing wages?
So for this, usually an attorney can assess the company's financial strengths to make that determination and make sure that the job that's being offered to the foreign national is one that the employer can pay. So the first thing that I usually ask employers is, what is the job that you're offering? What is the position? What are the minimum requirements? And what is the salary that the company can pay? With that information, I'm able to do some research to kind of understand what is normal, what is typical for the industry, and then assess and analyze the company's financials to see, okay, this employer can prove that they can pay the wage, which is something that a small business, is really important for small businesses to consider, especially given that the H-1B is a lottery. Legal fees and government fees can add up to thousands of dollars. So when small businesses go on to make that investment, it's worth making sure that they're going to meet all the eligibility requirements and get the final result that they want.
And that's why it's important, of course, to bring on a talented professional such as yourself with experience, so that they can know up front before they go any further and spend buku bucks on it, and make sure that you take a look and give a green light and make sure they're going to be able to qualify. So that's a very important, I think, a very important takeaway for everybody out there. Okay, so that's the H-1B visa. Now, what about the distinguish for us, please? What's the difference between that and the other visas that you mentioned, EB-2, EB-3s?
So H-1B is a temporary visa. It is something that is not going to be forever, right? It is for temporary work. The EB-2 or the EB-3 is for a permanent position. So think of immigration, the different immigration options, right? You have non-immigrant visas, you have immigrant visas. EB-2 and EB-3 are immigrant visas and lead to permanent residency. And for that, what the employer has to have is a permanent job offer for the foreign national. And similar to the H-1B, the employer has to make sure that they have the ability to pay as well.
Oh my goodness. So EB-2, EB-3. So what would be the distinction between those two? So you got an EB-2 and EB-3. How do you know which one you would want to go for, between those two?
It depends on the job that the foreign national is coming here to do. So, for example, if the job requires a bachelor degree or an advanced degree, depending on some jobs that require a bachelor's degree, you would opt for the EB-2. It's just a different classifications of visas based on the profession. So, for example, EB-3 can be for unskilled labor, roofers, dishwashers, or it can be also for sometimes people in a profession like an executive manager or an executive assistant or things like that. So it just really depends on the job and the minimum requirements, and that's how we would classify them according to the immigration law, whether it's EB-2 or EB-3 classification.
Wow, that is great information. Well, again, I stress to the folks out there, you want to hire Ingrid or hire somebody like Ingrid that knows all of the ins and outs of these different types of visas. That is excellent and great information. I am so pleased and happy that Ingrid was able to share all of that with us. And so, Ingrid, anything else that you think we might want to add to that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. These processes are very lengthy. They are very expensive, and it's really important for any employer who wants to proceed with some of these, with either one of these processes to really make sure that they know the road ahead. Having, the foundation for these processes laid out in front of them is really important because the employer obviously wants the employee here in the United States as soon as possible. But unfortunately, the government is not going to work on the employer's time or the employee's time. We have to work within the constraints of the government and the time limits that unfortunately we have no choice but to face.
Right. Okay. So very important piece of advice there. It's not going to be cheap and it's not going to be, necessarily quick. The government works on they immerse be their own drum, right? And
Yeah.
don't look at the clock, look at the calendar. I tell people sometimes when I'm dealing with the IRS. So I'm sure it's the same with immigration. So calendar, not clock. So anyway, Ingrid, we really appreciate all the good information you bring in to the table today. I'm sure it's going to be very useful for everybody out there. So if you can, please let us know. Suppose a small business owner out there wants to hire the best immigration attorney in Houston. How do they go about contacting you?
They can go to my website, ibplaw.com, get a hold of me. I'd be happy to speak to anybody out there who's looking for an immigration attorney. If I can't help, I can definitely give a referral too.
Okay, so go to your website. Well, that is wonderful. Ingrid, thanks very much again for being on Legal Talk. We really appreciate all the information you brought forward and hope that you're able and available to help everybody out there that wants to give you a call or click on your website, find you. Word to the wise out there, everybody. If you think you want to go down this road, you think you need some immigration work, and involve a professional up front. Make sure that you have somebody competent that's going to help you. There's a lot of shysters, a lot of funny business going on out there in the world. So make sure that
That's
you
true.
hire somebody competent. Get in contact with Ingrid, and she is going to definitely steer you in the right direction. Okay. So thanks everybody for being with us out there in the audience today. This has been Legal Talk. I am your host, John Mitchell. We're going to go for some commercial breaks, and we will be right back after that.